put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers. We just had about 7:12 a.m. this morning, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show. Happy New Year! It's the new year. Indeed, as we continue to give thanks, we are in 2024. We have made it this far. Indeed, and as we head on into our first interview this morning, we are chatting with Archdeacon Phill Isaac of the Tobago Anglican Church, and we're speaking about don't wait to make New Year resolutions. And you know, if you are around long enough and you have interacted and the influence he has on so many, yes, it's the same Father Phill Isaac that we know as Archdeacon based on his responsibilities. Good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning, Julian, and thanks for having me. And good morning to Tobago, and pleasant and happy New Year. I do hope that, you know, as the year did not start on too much of a good note, but, you know, things happen and we roll along. On the last day, we lost Chief Secretary, and on the first day, we lost good old politician, you know. But at the same time, we're moving along. All right.
Yes, indeed. And you know, I want to kind of take it back there in terms of your, before we even dive into the New Year resolutions in itself, you know, from where you sit, your wealth of experience, Father Phill, Archdeacon, through the church, the involvement of the people of Tobago, and by extension, those who move to and reside in Tobago. Tell us a little bit, you know, how do you feel at this point? Is there still a sense of hope? You still got to believe, you still got to have that faith in terms of things getting better one day?
Well, if we look at history, if you look at biblical history, we will see things would have moved, let us call it in a sinusoidal curve, right? Things get better, things get worse, people get complacent, you know, and things move from stage to stage. So I have hope. I do have hope.
All right, no matter the circumstances. So this morning we're diving on into, there's that topic of New Year resolutions. Some are for it, some are not so much for it. We want to get your perspective from where you sit. Are you into that and promoting, all right, you know, at this point in the year, you must dictate what happens, and then you wait for an entire year and to make that change and difference again? Tell us a little bit about your perspective when it comes to resolutions. And I probably should ask you to start from the point of how do you see and or define, you know, that resolution, so to speak, before we even touch whether it's New Year limited to?
Well, people go into planning. And sometimes people assign dates from which they are going to start activities. When it comes to the new year, it is a good point for change because there can be some reflection on what would have passed. And because of the image, if I want to call it that, of the new year, we could say, well, new year, new rule. Coming up here this morning, I gave a guy a lift, and I said, so how does the new year look for you? You see, I taken it as it comes, right? And, you know, sometimes people look at birthdays, sometimes people look at anniversaries, and they set targets from various points. The reason why I would say the new year is a good time to set a target is because as the year goes old, 365 pass, you know, and you say, well, look, let me reflect and let me start over. It's a good thing. I mean, personally, if I have to do something, I just plan and I do it, you know, as the time rolls on. That's my personal way of doing it. But, you know, when you look at humanity, we have so many different views. And persons are going to start from different places.
So what I want to get, you know, most times what tends to happen for most persons is we make that plan, we make that resolution at the beginning of the year. And somehow by the time we get into January, later part, February, etc., we've kind of leaned away from what the resolution intended, and then we put it down all together until we're coming down to Christmas and New Year's again at the end of the year and prepare ourselves for the next year. What's your advice to persons in that regard? Because we kind of dropped the ball We let the whole year run through because we feel as though we cannot do it in between or refocus, and then we wait till the end of the year again to give the confidence and say we're starting anew once again.
They will continue exciting themselves, being anxious, and making these resolutions on January 1, and by January 31, those resolutions would have evaporated. Right? That happens. So it's the way they live. Right? I mean, if you have something concrete to do, you are going to put a plan in place. You will sit down, you will contemplate on it seriously, and you're going to start doing it at any time. You understand? But when you're waiting on New Year's, quote unquote, resolutions, okay, I'm going to take up a fitness program or something like that in the new year, you see the tummies going after the 21st of January.
They might probably make it to the festive carnival season, and then after that we have problems.
Yes, you have problems again.
How would you say in terms of, we look broadly, and many, particularly, those experienced ones who have been around in Tobago long enough and have seen the island transition and grow and so on, they speak with much concern. If I take, for example, my grandmother and others, my neighbors, those senior, they speak with much concern that they feel as though a lot of the challenges we faced, a contributing factor has been because Tobago, by and large, has somewhat started to move away from that focus on, that focus on God, whatever you may call him in your particular religion or your particular faith, but that focus on a higher being. What's your perspective again, looking at that situation?
Humans are going to look for, let us call it a superhuman, look for a God or something in their makeup. And because we were made like that, all right? We were created by a superior being, and indeed, we are going to start to look for that superior being that is beyond humanity. And the way we apply ourselves to theology, I mean, in the early days, what probably would have happened is that you had nothing else to look at. But today you see you have other things to look at, and you see you have experiences coming along the lines. To some people right now, the gun is their God. You understand? And they feel, well, okay, I don't need this spiritual being, right? Because I have the power in my hand. And that is dangerous, okay? But nevertheless, people will always look for something superior as we move along. And as to how the church continues to manage, you see, and then the relationship between what I would say church and state, and how, for example, the state follows the UN practices and all the practices and all these laws that are coming in now, these restrictive laws, right, to control the rights of human beings and so forth. The rights of human beings now probably taking precedence over the law of God, taking precedence over the Bible, right? So we'll continue to deteriorate on that situation, but at the same time, God has ways that we have not yet even thought of. All right. I mean, I remember, well, just to call out from a biblical perspective, the situation with Jonah. And Jonah went into Nineveh. Nineveh was cruel, wicked. They were against Israel and so forth. And then suddenly he went in and he spoke 8 words. And nobody expected the king of Jonah to respond. But he responded. And by responding with those 8 words, Nineveh was saved. All right, so we have a God that we can depend on. He's always faithful, and he has ways of, pointing us into directions that we have not even thought of yet.
Tell us, do you hope to see the church playing a greater role heading on forward in this year? And by that I mean specifically, again, for me, the essence of church is not just simply coming together on a Saturday or on a Sunday, but it's really that greater integration into community. I operate in spaces and places where my pastor and my minister are very familiar with the community, whether you should be in church and you're not there because of your family line, but they know that this is where you're connected to and where you should be getting that fill, or you are there regularly and faithfully as you should be? Do you see a greater role to be played on the part of the church as it relates to building out those communities and so on, in terms of moving us forward?
I would sadly say that the church has a responsibility to take a greater role in the community. But I find it these days, churches taking a interest, and when I say in themselves, rather than pointing people to God. Many of the churches are battling against each other. They're trying to draw membership from one church to the other, rather than join hands and go out there and go into the community and do what we have to do. All right? And I think that is deceiving the church itself, even as we are bonded. Churches have got to, well, when I say churches, let me say denominations have got to link together and go into the community, because it is the kind of, let us say, enemy that we have. If you divided, what is going to happen? You will be ruled, right? So yes, the church has got to work together. The churches must work. If the churches do not work together, then we lost. We're going to lose the battle.
All right. And what I want to use the opportunity, to also to have you say a few words on, particularly, we have always made the cry and the call, our young people and our children are indeed our future. Some of them feel somewhat of a separation from the church. One of the conversations we had coming to the latter part of last year, in terms of being able to connect openly and anywhere. Now, I know in growing up, I didn't even belong to the Anglican Church, but through my involvement in YOT, I could reach out to Father Phill anytime. What's your advice in that regard? Because some are not too much into reaching out in that formal open space, let's say at a service or in a public way, but that level of accessibility to those who take up very leading roles in terms of that spiritual guidance and leading in the church and so on. What do you say to those young people in particular that feel as though that avenue doesn't exist?
Who was here first? The young people? The young people were not here first. All right. Now, as a curate, and I'd use the word because not many people know or interact with that word. As a curate, I have a cure. And my cure is everyone who is within that conurbation, anyone who is within the community, any village, any church, right? As long as you belong to that area, you are in my cure. And I have got to open myself to you. I have got to show respect to you in a particular way. I have got to be concerned about you. All right? So I'm saying that I'm here first. And you are coming into the community. I must invite you and shape you into the community. The thing about that, though, is that we have some obstacles, right? Between my serving the young people and the young people receiving what I have to give, right?
Yes.
I mean, so I'm saying from an Anglican perspective, that's how we see it. But yes, we must open ourselves to the young people, and we must also have an avenue to the young people so that we can respect them and they can respect us. If that doesn't happen again, things would fall. Right?
Indeed. All right. And you get the opportunity to give us, what would be your message to our viewers and listeners, those here in Tobago, Trinidad, those far and wide that have ties and connections to Trinidad and Tobago, looking on, and even some of our newer visitors our viewers on the outside there, Canada, outside in the US, Ghana, and so on. What would be your message that goes out to them at the start of this year as we close this morning's interview?
There is a statement I have. Marriages fail when we worship self. Selfishness is a dangerous enemy to humanity. In Trinidad and Tobago, I would say ban all guns, all firearms, all right? And I'll say something that is going to be really crazy at this time. If you are seen with a gun, you'll be shot. Questions are asked after, if it is possible.
Very, very, very.
But for the rest of the world, I'm saying that, you know, we have got to look at that. Yes, we are individuals, and but selfishness, we've got to strive to do what Jesus has told us to do, right? Do unto others as we would have them to do unto us.
All right.
Okay.
Indeed, there a message there from Archdeacon Phill Isaac as we start off here our first working day for the year 2024. And I've got to say it slowly because you know you tend to still tie in with the old year. Thank you so much for joining us here on set at the Tobago Updates morning show. And let me take the opportunity, quick shout outs this morning. To some of those viewers on the live with us, Selma Lashley, I'm seeing in the mix this morning, Lavian Ashby Cupid, good morning to you. Pearl Murray Beard, continuing to be faithful and dedicated indeed. The Tobago Updates, Auntie Dora Lyons, Brenda Campbell. I'm seeing the man himself, Terry Trinidad, in the mix. I saw your brother for the family lineup and celebrations. Looking forward to seeing you. All right, Travis Moses, Lisa James, QK Melville, Mrs. Charles out there in Susulands, Crystal Tom, Washington, Uncle Carly out there as well, Carl Simon supporting. I want to say good morning to each and every one of you, and we want to thank you so much for the continued love and support and for choosing the Tobago Updates morning show. Viewers, at this point we prepare to head on out to a break, but we want to remind you that this is your opportunity to share the live, share the live, share the live. It's a new year.